This episode is sponsored by the Home Inspector team. It seems like everywhere you look nowadays, you see new homes popping up all over the place like dandelions in the spring. You have to wonder how well those homes are being built with how fast they're building them. That's where the Home Inspector team comes in. With their new construction bundle, you can have every phase of your new construction home professionally inspected to make sure no mistakes are being made. First, they come out before the drywall is installed to make sure the construction and utility rough-ins are done properly, because once they are out of sight, they are out of mind. Before you move in, they ensure everything is functioning properly and provide essential information to help you maintain the home, safeguarding your family and your investment. And finally, just before the builder's warranty expires, they come in to make sure that everything is A-OK, and if it's not, they make sharing your inspection report with the builder a breeze. Scheduling an appointment with the Home Inspector team is super easy. I just did it myself. Just visit their website, thehomeinspector.team, to get an instant quote and to schedule the inspection at a time that works best for you. And don't forget to mention our podcast to receive a special discount. Now back to the show. She has been captivating audiences for years with her wit and charm, straight from the networking floor to give you all the dirt. It's Dusta. Hi, y'all, and welcome to another exciting episode of Down Home Dirt, the show where we dive deep into the journey of entrepreneurship with the people who took the plunge and the ups and downs that come with it. I'm your host, Dusta. It's a great intro. I just did that literally like 15 seconds before we started. So, still learning how to do that. But today we are joined with Luis, and he is with Ortega Tree and Land Clearing. Thank you for coming out today. I know the storm has kept a lot of people up, and it's crazy out there, but I do appreciate you coming out today. So tell us a little bit about your business and how long you lived here, actually. I'd like to know that because I've heard a little bit before we started.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Dust. I really appreciate it. And yeah, this storm is definitely changing everybody's schedule for the rest of the week and today. And I hope everybody's staying safe. This is where we shine. So we're all out and about right now, doing the best we can to take trees off of cars and houses and everything. So we're rocking and rolling. My family and I are actually from Mexico, but I came here at a really young age. So this is what I call home. I grew up. We came straight to Clayton and stayed in Clayton. My dad was like, I'm good. I only need to move once in my life. I'm all set. I like it here. And so we stayed in Clayton. They're still in Clayton. I've, since moved around a little bit. And growing up, I always wanted to leave Clayton. I was one of those Clayton kids that always wanted to, find something to do and leave and go to New York, go to California or something like that. And now that I got older and I have a family and I have, responsibilities, Clayton is awesome. Clayton is really cool. Clayton has everything. Clayton is affordable. Clayton is great. I can't wait to go back to Clayton.
I agree. I talk a lot about how it's a small town community, but at the same time, like you have that, I can't explain, it's a feeling because it's so hard to describe, but it's like, everybody, what's going on, you see the growth, like you feel like you're part of a family, I guess is the word I'm looking for.
Yeah, and there's a magnetism to the town, I think, that I
Yeah.
didn't identify before. I never really paid attention to it. And I guess when you're a kid, like it's not really something you have top of mind you're thinking about. But definitely now as an adult, I absolutely can feel the magnetism from our hometown. But yeah, I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's a great small town. I have only lived in Clayton for 5 years. We bought a house here. We moved from Garner, had no like relation to it, didn't know anything about it, just kind of did the same thing. Your dad just jumped and was like, this is where I'm
Hmm.
at. And I've been here ever since. And I've threatened to leave. But then I come back to my beautiful home that I own and I go, you know what? That sounds like a lot of work I'm not doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And Clayton has a little bit of everything. I've when I graduated from Clayton High School, and I immediately thought I was going to get into sales. And this is like me kind of getting into Ortega Tree. I immediately thought I was going to get into sales because my first job ever was at a place called Carolina Graphic Press off of Highway 70 in Clayton. I used to make cardboard boxes. And it was just something to do. I was still in school, and so they'd give me a couple of hours of work, and I would go after school and make cardboard boxes for labels that they would print. Then I immediately knew just by watching that I wanted a job like the people at the front office, because it was air conditioned and they talked on the phone all the time. They're very personable. I was like, I want that one. I don't want to make boxes all the time. At the time, I didn't know what I wanted to do career wise. I didn't really know where I was going, but I knew that I enjoyed talking to people. And it was just kind of like a domino effect. Like putting myself in a position where I had the opportunity to talk to people made me realize I was really good at sales. Being really good at sales made me realize I was good at marketing. And then one thing led to another. I ended up starting a marketing agency and loved it. Tortuga Marketing is still up and running. I don't run it anymore. My partner Prashanth is in charge of Tortuga, and things are well over there. But that taught me that I didn't like not having control in my clients' businesses, because nothing was more frustrating than helping them like grow their revenue, increase lead flow, and then they were still not better. They were still not better. They would still struggle with certain things or certain aspects of the business. And I was like, I really want to help. I really want to help, but I don't have the track record or confidence to call myself a coach and not have done it myself, right? And that's
Mhm.
like one thing led to another. One of my clients ended up reaching out about starting a new business and he wanted help from the marketing side. And instead of just doing it, we had a conversation where I realized that what he was truly needing was support everywhere. He really just wanted to do the work. And by the end of that meeting, we walked away with a handshake business partnership. And over the next couple of months, that's how Ortega Tree and Land came to be. His name is Guillermo. He's one of our best clients at Tortuga. He owned a painting company. That's how I got to know him. And yeah, we agreed to start Ortega Tree and Land Clearing. We're a tree service business here we're based out of Raleigh, but we service all the Triangle, Clayton, Durham, Chapel Hill, Wake Forest, all the good stuff. And we do primarily residential tree removal, and we're easing into doing a little bit larger commercial work and land clearing projects. But it's a whole separate beast. And that's like the quick 10,000 foot overview to how I became the owner of a tree business, not knowing anything about trees.
No, I'm with you on that. I don't either. So that's great though. And so you want to tell us a little bit about your other companies?
Sure. Yeah. Well, so that same guy, Guillermo uh, was working with me directly for a whole year as partners. We did everything together with the tree company. Our first year, we closed it out just shy of around $700,000. And we were like, wow, this is exponentially better than either of us thought it could be. We need more help. We brought on more partners. We raised money. We have just been going, and it's still like our pedal is still to the floor. We're still figuring things out as we go along, doing the best that we can. His brother, who owns the painting company that he started back in 2006, had
Oh
been
wow.
watching us from the distance, and eventually came to us and was like, hey, I want to do what you guys are doing. Like, I want to play too. And so we sat down, we came up with an agreement that made sense. And we officially joined forces, and I became a partner in the painting company as well. Earlier this year, in fact, it was, I believe, May. And the name of that business is Ortega Painters. And our vision is to grow the Ortega brand into what around here can be known and recognized as a family of service based businesses. All different trades: HVAC, plumbing, landscaping, tree removal, eventually. Right now, our focus is growing those two, and the tree company is our guinea pig. That is where we are testing all of our systems, all of our marketing processes, everything, and then whatever works is being implemented in the painting business too.
That's
So
amazing.
that's
I
our.
love that you have more than one.
It's definitely some days I wish I didn't. um,
I agree.
it's
That's something I
definitely a
like to,
lot.
highlight is that yes, is like when you're an entrepreneur, you never want to do just one thing. You always want more. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I think it's a great thing. I also think it's awesome that you can divide your attention into each of these businesses and make them grow. Like that's great.
I appreciate. Yeah, I agree. I struggle personally from shiny object syndrome. I'm doing something, and it gets a little hard. And if I see something else that is appealing or enticing, I struggle sometimes to say no to an opportunity, especially if I feel like I am currently spinning my wheels. I have lots of mentors and business partners in the past that have like tried to correct that habit. And I am continuously working on trying to make that better. But it's definitely a struggle for us like scatterbrain people who like to, oh, like I'm always thinking about something whether I'm saying it or not.
Yeah, sounds like me. I have diagnosed ADHD, and I obviously cannot focus on one thing only, multiple things all the time.
I saw
So
someone with a hat recently. It said undiagnosed but pretty sure. And
I
it like,
want this hat.
yeah, it like applies to anything, but like how many of us like, pretty sure I have this thing, but I've never been diagnosed, but I'm pretty sure.
Right. And I'm noticing the more entrepreneurs that I bring on here, the more we have in common. And unfortunately, they say that if you get along with somebody with ADHD, you probably have it too. So, welcome to the club. We have jackets.
Uh-oh. Send me too. Oh
So,
man.
you told us a little bit about how you got into it. So, like, what was your ready moment when you decided to be an entrepreneur? Like you said, you were working there. Did something happen? Is there a story behind that? You were just like, "Eff it, I'm doing it."
I I think I've just always been a fixer. I had a really tough childhood, and that's something I think we should get into on the podcast. But I had a
Right.
very tough childhood, and growing up, I had to fix things to survive. Right, I had to help my little sister. I had to be around in a much more mature capacity than I was at the time, and so as a result, that sort of stuck with me. That like trauma response to my environment stuck with me and became a skill that I'm proud of. I've always been a fixer. I fix things. So
But
being,
that's really good.
yeah, it can be good. I'm sure my wife could also say it can get annoying too. Um,
It can be. Not. I'm just gonna glaze over it. Also, did not have the best childhood. Was also in survivor mode my entire life, essentially, and that's
agree.
why I decided to be an entrepreneur at 18. So I get it 1,000%.
Yeah, and there were signs, right? Like at 16, I was selling snacks out of my backpack. To people at school. Mountain Dews. Mountain Dews were great at Clayton High. Everybody wanted Mountain Dew. Mountain Dews, honey buns, things like that. And that escalated into selling custom printed T-shirts. And none of this was official. Like I didn't make it a formal business or anything. It's just a hustle. Like I always felt like I needed to be doing something. Again, all these are trauma responses that translated into real life skills. But being an employee, right? Because when you go to school, you learn you have to come up with a career, go study, and then do that career. Once being put in that position, I realized, well, I'm just not. I'm not okay just sitting idly by when I see a problem. I want to fix it, and there's all the red tape. You have to run it by management, who then has to run it by more management, and then it gets declined for reasons unknown to you, and then you just have to deal with it, and you just have to be there. And it was very early on that I realized that I just wasn't, I don't think I'd cut out to be a follower in that way. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But it just drove me crazy to not have the ability to fix the things that I saw in front of me that needed fixing. And it wasn't my place to do so. So I left and made it my place somewhere else.
I'm with you 1,000%. I cannot hold a job to save my life, especially when I can get the work done 10 times faster than everyone else. And not only that, I didn't understand like why I had to sit there for 8 hours if I could get it done. And like I wanted to be in control.
You get
So I,
penalized. You get penalized for
yeah,
working too well because then you make less because you're too efficient.
that is true, and that was a struggle that I felt, and the having to sit down, oh my god, I cannot do that. It is just not a thing for me. But I definitely resonate with the fact that, like, even in high school, like, I grew up in a big city, so we obviously have different, opinion on what is commodity there. It was like jail, so we were selling cigarettes to kids for a quarter, even on
Wow.
the bus. Like, "Here you go." Like, I know that sounds terrible, but hey, I grew up in a different environment.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Different time, different place. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what we were doing, and it was it's funny because I had my first job at 4, well, technically 11. I was a babysitter, but then I got tired of that because while I love children, I was not like enthralled with the idea of having to take care of them all the time. And so got my first job at 14, and I wasn't legally of age to run a register, but I was real nice to that general manager, and they were short staffed, so I made it happen.
Yeah.
So I think that, it's something, you're right, it happens when you're younger. You just kind of start noticing, hey, I have the ability to do this. I should do something with it.
Yep. Agreed. I can relate to
Like,
all of
it's
that. Yep.
great. I know when people hear this, they're going to be like, oh my God, you smoked? Yes, I used to smoke. I stopped when I was 23. I have not touched a cigarette since because I'm good.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It was really hard because
I
I
can
was so young.
imagine. I can imagine.
A
Yeah.
lot.
Well, that's not a small feat. You should be proud of yourself.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's really good. So moving on, where are you in your entrepreneur journey? So how long have you been doing this?
I have been 100% committed to being self-employed for going on 8 years now.
Wow.
Hmm.
That's impressive. They say my accountant, when I first started my business, was like, "Yeah, you're doing great, but just know that some businesses fail within the first 5 years." And I was like, "Why? Why would you tell me that? Like, that's so discouraging." But at the
Yeah.
same time, we're going on our fifth year now, so I'm loving talking to people who are further ahead than me. Like, you made it; it's awesome, and you made it with three companies instead of just the one. I currently just have the one that I'm preaching about.
Yeah, I agree. I enjoy talking to people who are a couple steps ahead for sure. Because on that same note, I've heard that I've heard that statistic before, where companies don't tend to make it past that. But there's another element to that that I don't think it's exclusive to just my story. I believe that everybody else does this too. But as your business evolves. It's almost like as that the counter seems to reset. It's like we made it past the first 5 years, but now we're a different type of company. We're on level two now. Now, this company, this version of this company, can we make it past this next 5 year window or this next? It's almost like as our companies evolve, they become different things all together. I remember running Tortuga when we were doing $150,000 a year was completely different than running it 2, 3 years later. Same thing with the tree company. Like we closed out our first year and we did most of it with subcontractors, a pickup truck, and a dump trailer. And that dump trailer was rented half the time. It wasn't ours until second half of the year. And now we have dump trucks and machines and equipment. And next year we're gonna have cranes and grapple saws and like it's evolving every time. And I feel the stress from feeling like that counter resets as well. Because now you have to figure out how to run the business at this stage. So that's
Wow,
why
I never thought about that.
Yeah, and that's why I really enjoy like when I get to that when I feel like I'm at that new stage, I like to try and surround myself with people who are there or who have been there. And at some point, I think we're gonna find a place and a spot and a size that we are happy with, and just hold steady potentially, because you don't have to continue to scale indefinitely. But we will
No, that's
cross that
very
bridge
true.
when we get there.
No, absolutely. I never thought about it like that. You're absolutely right. Now listen, I'm having self-reflection right now. This is about you.
Nonsense.
So that leads me
This is for both of us.
true. I just wow, yeah. Because I'm thinking about it. This is just from my perspective. Is that my business was not obviously that great when I first started because I didn't have a whole lot of clients. I didn't have any of the knowledge that I have currently, and now I think about how I do run my business a lot differently than I did then. I mean, I was chasing leads and I was anybody's my client, and now I've scaled up and I've got to think about like not everyone's my client and how am I taking care of my current clients and all of that. Wow. Okay. Thank you for the self reflection.
Yeah. Oh,
So that leads me to my next question. How do you measure success in your businesses?
well, I think every business is different. For me, the measure of success within each organization is different. At Tortuga, it's how little can I be there, right? Like how do I reduce the amount of time that I have to be involved? Because the systems that have been put in place, the people that are in positions they're supposed to be, um, they there are systems that like if I have to jump in and do stuff, it means that something's awry somewhere, something's off. And so my measurement of success is how long it's been since last time me and Prashanth talked about Tortuga problems. Whereas with the other two, we're in it's the infancy stages of both the painters and the trees, and my measurements of success there have a lot to do with growth. and sales and conversion metrics. And then I have my own personal measures of success, but I would say they're all a little bit different. If that, I hope that
Makes sense.
answers the question a little bit. I know it's not super direct and specific,
Hey, listen, this is about how you measure it, not about what I think.
for sure. And hopefully,
So,
at least just trying to be thought provoking to whoever's listening too, right? I think
true.
sometimes I would struggle trying to fit the mold of someone else's definition of success. And it wasn't until I realized, well, I don't really care about what he's trying to do. I'm aiming to do these things, so my measurement of success is going to be different, even though we have the exact same business. So hopefully that helps someone.
Exactly. And I love that you brought that up because that's something I always like to talk about is these people aren't your competition. They're just in the same field of work you are. And
Hmm.
so
Hmm.
making sure that, you have open communication and that you're talking to them as well. And I think that that's great because then you're setting a precedent for pricing, for customer service, because you're all in it together essentially. Even though
Absolutely,
people consider it competition, it's not.
100% agree.
And right, and, like, that's also how you kind of measure yourself up too, because 'cause you're like, "Okay, I've seen Google reviews, I've talked to the owner, I see how they do things differently," and then you're able to, like, implement your own things on how you feel it should be done.
And what
That's
works
kinda how I
in your world? Yeah.
Right, and, like, when I first started with my cleaning company, I looked around at everyone else who was doing it, and I was like, "Okay, so what is the thing that they don't have that I could bring to the table?" And that's where I created a checklist because I wanted to feel accountable for what I was doing, but I also wanted my clients to know exactly what they were getting with the house cleaning. So it's just a matter of learning how to market yourself better and improve. That's what I think personally.
100% agree with you.
Well, I'm glad that we agree on that. It's something I like to put out there. So, where do you see yourself in the future? You mentioned growing this brand a little bit. Where does that put you both personally and professionally in the future?
So with any business that I get involved in, I my objective and my goal is to step away. Um, it's difficult, but if you build the business as though you're going to sell it, even if you never sell it, you're creating an entity that can operate without you. It can become its own thing. It grows. It evolves. It's really fun to watch, right? And so in 5 years, I would love to not be involved in the day-to-day operations for either of these three businesses, and I would be working on new projects. That's that's where I thrive, is taking a project, whether it's beginning and starting from scratch, or they've been in business for 5 years but we're coming in to help, you know redesign them, remold them, whatever. My skill set and what I do really well is coming in and doing those things to getting started, putting the right people in place, creating the systems, and then trying to step back. Um, it's very difficult, and sometimes it takes 10 different attempts before you get it right. You step away and then everything falls apart. So it's not easy, but it's just what I enjoy doing the most as a problem solver. So yeah, in 5 years I want to be working on new projects. I'm also, I don't know if you want to touch on this now or further questions, but I'm also personally going through something that I wonder if other entrepreneurs, actually, I know other people have also run into, but I was a business owner first. I'm only just now becoming a dad, and I am having to navigate what that means for me on a day to day, and like who's getting my time, where my priorities land. Everything still feels very chaotic. Eh, parenthood is chaotic. New children,
Yep.
they don't believe in schedules. It depends. Some kids are easier than others, but they don't care about your schedule. They don't care about your sleep. They're just babies. She's just a baby. So I'm really having to navigate who I am as a business owner, who I am as a dad, who I am as a husband, and then who I am as me, and how they all fit together. And when I figure that out, that's my priority this year. When I do figure that out, I'm sure that will play a direct role. It'll influence where I am 5 years from now. But it's
I
kind of
agree.
it's
And I'm
kind of
glad that
neat.
you brought that up. I'm really glad you brought that up because that is something. So I'm a single parent. I always have been since I was 19 because I don't make great decisions. Well, I used to not make great decisions. Let me rephrase.
I like
Now I make
that.
much
Good
better
job.
ones.
Yeah.
And to be honest though, I've never had a partner. And so I don't know what it looks like to have that person. I've always just been a single mother. I've always been, business and stuff like that. So I'm glad that you had brought that up, that you started out being an entrepreneur and now you're a parent and you've got to learn how to balance all that. And sometimes this is just a personal experience. I've noticed that whenever I'm doing really good in my business, my family falls. But
Bingo.
whenever
Yeah.
my family's doing great, but my business falls.
Yep.
So I'm personally having a hard time juggling all that.
Yep. Yep.
So
It's
I'm
hard.
glad that you brought that up.
It's very
It
hard.
is. And your baby is not even one yet, right?
She's 1.5. She's 1.5, but she's
Oh,
itty bitty.
okay.
1.5 and then a 5-year-old.
Oh, wow. So
Yeah.
little. So
Yeah.
not even school yet. Because that's going to be a whole nother fun stuff. With me personally, my daughter goes to a school 35 minutes away. So I have to get up at 6 a.m. I have to drive her to school. By the time I get back, I got to do all of my marketing, all of my whatever, catching up on emails, stuff like that. And then I got to go to work. Then I got to come back and I got so it's
Oh, I can
constant.
only imagine. Yeah, doing it. I've got my wife for support, which is awesome. We're also trying to navigate the fact that she's now working 3 days a week. It was 1 day and then 2 days and now 3 days. And she works with us. She works with the Ortega companies, but having to navigate childcare and what we're gonna do, and something she brought up is how difficult it is to switch from mom to employee, because when she just worked twice a week, it was Tuesdays and Thursdays, and she would be a mom Monday, and then it would take her half the day Tuesday to just get in the zone. And by the time you're in the zone, you got to turn it off and go pick up the kids and then go back to mom, and then your mom Wednesday. And then you got to switch back to employee or, work mindset on Thursday. And so I'm sure it's all difficult. It's all difficult.
It is. It's a juggling act. I know when you were saying, again, more self-reflection, this is why I do this podcast. I was just thinking about how I kind of treat my children like, I'm the boss, right? I'm the entrepreneur. I own the business, and like, you essentially work for me. We have things we have to do. So get them done, because if you don't, this doesn't get done.
Yeah.
And
Natural
I
consequences.
get yeah. And so I guess, again, everyone's different. I've been a single mom forever, so I've just always done it that way. But you have a different dynamic. So I could understand how that's hard. 100%. I used to be an employee one time, believe it or not.
Yeah, yeah. I had a
So,
mentor one time tell me that if you're going to be an entrepreneur, you have to be an entrepreneur through and through, and you have to run your household like a business too. People have to have roles. There has to be, motivation, incentives, natural consequences, and all of the right systems for it to operate smoothly. Um, it's advice that I've always tried to execute, but it's easier said than done.
oh, listen, I understand, because sometimes I'm like, oh my God, just let me do it for you, because I know that if we don't get it done, the goal's not going to be reached. And I'm like, now hold on, can't do that.
I struggle the most with those natural consequences because I'm usually affected by the natural consequence too. So I want you to learn your lesson, but not at my expense. So please step aside. I'm going to do it. And
Yes,
then the lesson
it
doesn't
can.
get taught.
Right, and it's like the most frustrating. So
Hmm.
I feel you 100%. I have 3 children. I have a son who just turned 19. He has autism. I have a daughter who's going to be 18 in January, and then I have my almost 9-year-old. So I've had like a
Wow.
very interesting range of children, but also special things that I have to deal with, because for me,
Absolutely.
I had to go to IEP meetings. I had to make sure that my son had what he needed to be able to be successful. And that kind of sometimes makes you put your business on the back burner. So I'm glad that you're figuring out different ways. So
Yeah.
that actually brings me to my next question. Tell me about your support system. Like, who is your biggest supporter, and how has having that support helped you achieve your success?
I think hands down, my biggest supporter is my wife. No question about it. We do a really great job communicating. We, we share the mental load a lot. And there's ebbs and flows. There are times where it's a little uneven and unfair, unbalanced, and she's holding that weight. And other times where I am, and you know, but I am very blessed now to have a big support system in general, right? That I know compared to other people, I am very grateful. I understand that I am. I am not. I may not be privileged in the sense that I come from money or anything like that, but I am infinitely privileged, and I appreciate it that I have such a big support system, from her family to my family. And my wife has done a really great job of teaching me how to ask for help. You'd be surprised how much of a difference that made. It's like the support system was always there. I just never asked for help. I was either too prideful, too scared, or too afraid of judgment, But just simply saying, "Hey, I'm struggling. I need help with this," or even being very direct and just saying, "Hey, I specifically this week I need help with X, Y, and Z. Are you in a position to help me?" Um, before I really struggled being that direct and upfront about needing support, but I would say my support system's pretty wide. I have so many people to thank, and I'm very grateful because I would absolutely not be able to do what I'm doing right now. I would have absolutely dropped one of these things I'm juggling would have completely crashed and burned.
1,000%. I am with you on that. My support system only consists of my daughter, but I think I'm in the position that you are where I'm not asking for help. And I think that's kind of hindering my success a little bit.
And I thought I
So,
thought that the support system had to be family. So for many years, I thought I didn't have a support system. And I was a little envious and jealous of my friends who did. Like, oh, I wish I had aunt or uncles around here. But remember, we migrated here from Mexico at a really young age. We don't have family here, but I have now my wife's family, right, that I can count on too, and then I have my adopted family. So we have aunts and uncles and everything that we call aunts and uncles and cousins. Everything. They're not actually blood family. They've just become close, whether they were clients at one point, friends that I met somewhere, and it all just came from asking for help and continuing to develop those relationships with people that I had some common ground with. But I definitely think that like piece of asking for help has absolutely changed my life in the last 2 years.
no, I agree on that. I think I'm going to start reaching out more instead of just sitting here suffering because that is exactly what's happening.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
ask for the help.
Ask for the
That's
help,
that's the
hands down.
message. So right now, what is your main marketing strategy? I know you'd mentioned your network of people, is this also for your business that you networked for them is what I mean, and that's how you met these people to become your support system?
Yeah, networking has always been a big piece. I actually just listened to Alex's podcast before mine. Yeah, and
Okay.
he was also talking about how like networking is a big piece of his business, and hey, like I yeah, another vote in that direction. Definitely, networking has put me in contact with all the right people that has formed who I have become as a person. So like as a marketing strategy for our businesses, I mean we do the usual stuff. We do SEO and ads and uh, um, SEO ads. We spend a bunch of time on our website. We do all of the basics, but everything started from some kind of networking, some kind of outreach. Example, Tortuga. It would not be what it was today had I not met my business partner Prashant through networking. So like at the top is networking, and then it's all
Mhm.
the little tiny little pieces that come together. But yeah, I think growing a business, especially a local business, is close to impossible without spending some time networking and reaching out to other business owners and other peers. It's not what you know; it's who you know.
I agree 1,000%. I always tell people that too, and I'm
Yeah,
like, networking is very important. We are going to be meeting with a networking group here soon to get some feedback on how their group has helped a lot of people in Clayton. So I'm really excited about that. I just want to make that little announcement. But I started out in Tang and BNI,
love
and
Tang.
that's kind of how, right? Love Tang. We talk about them a lot on the podcast and how they have really helped a lot of people in Clayton specifically. BNI is international, so they have a lot more reach, but they have, in my opinion, more of a corporate feel versus like a small networking group.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's what I like to find myself in is like the smaller networking groups that are just area specific. And we do for our marketing, I honestly just word of mouth at this point. Like we did start off trying to figure out what the best strategy was, and that's when I was introduced to network marketing, and I was like, okay, like let's try that. And then ever since then I've never paid for like anything, but also in my business I don't feel like that was necessary for me to pay for like advertise because I'm a cleaning company.
Yeah,
We have a very small budget, and to put so much into that advertising and everything, I just didn't feel like that was good. So I put in a lot more to networking, which paid off really well. I have not done anything in 2 years. That's how great our business is
Wow.
going.
That's amazing. Congrats.
Yeah, just based on those networking in the beginning, those relationships.
That's
So I
amazing.
think
It's
that
like a trickle effect too. You get one and then they get you three and then they get you 10 and it just keeps going and
no,
going as long as you're doing
I
good work.
right. That's why I brought all that up to also ask you. So tell us what Tortuga Marketing could do for a company. What is it? So you mentioned SEO.
Yeah, so
What?
sorry. This is excited jumping into it. Tortuga has found a really good niche for itself inside of the trades businesses. So while we can help, all kinds of businesses, our specialty is really helping trades business owners. And the ideal target audience for Tortuga is somebody who is an owner operator of a service based business doing anywhere from 500,000 to like $1 million a year. And the reason I say that number is because generally in that threshold, you've got someone like an Alex, right? Like the owner is still out doing sales. The owner is still out networking and meeting people. Alex, I believe, has a salesperson though. But you've
He
got
does.
multiple teams and you're rolling, but you're not at the point where you can step away. And oftentimes it's because the owner has such a direct effect on the growth of the business. Even our two are still at that point. But Tortuga's focus is on helping those people get to the point where the flow of revenue is great enough to step away and focus on working on the business, right? You can hire an operations manager, a salesperson, and then your team does what it does. Then you can focus on patching the holes as they come up. We accomplish this by the website's usually that's the base. You have to have a solid, properly built, SEO optimized website. From there, we depending on like where you're at in the stage of your company, if you're going to go all in or if you just want to start out slow, but we'll do like organic local SEO by creating resource pages and blog pages and topics to help people who are searching for solutions to problems that you can do, that you can help with. How do I get my AC back on? My fan is blowing, but there's no cold air coming. Like, what do I do? Like creating articles that solve things like that and help point people in the right direction, but they're coming from your business. So it makes you look like the thought leader in that space. So that's SEO. Social media is pretty straightforward. Growing a local audience, providing that same level of like content and resources to the local community, and then as a last and added layer, this is like the gasoline to the flame. All the other stuff is going to take some time, and we plant it, and we can't wait for it to grow and produce for us. But in the meantime, we always sprinkle some advertising to everything because if we can get some immediate traction and some immediate leads, we find that the average amount of time that a person will stick with Tortuga increases from like 3 to 4 months while they are impatiently waiting for SEO to take off to years with us because we're giving them something immediately so that they feel good about their purchase. But in the background, our pride and joy is actually what we're building for them that they don't even realize. And it's that like organic lead flow that's coming in. And so that's what we've been doing for the tree company and the painters as well.
That's amazing. Honestly, you do so much to help people grow, and I love it. I don't know much about marketing, obviously, and my last guest, she does pest control, and I told her I didn't know anything, and she's like, "Why would you?" And I'm like, "That's a really good point. Like, I mean, I should know because I'm a business owner, but I don't really know that much about marketing."
And that's fair
So
because we don't have to be experts in everything. As business owners, we sometimes think we do. I think I definitely fall into that same category. But if you are quick to figure out what you need, what you're good at, and then focus on just doing that, and then filling the gaps, everything that you're not so great at, put someone in that spot who is really great.
I love that you mentioned that because I always like to tell people hire for the things that you can't do or that you don't want to do. 100% in business because you're going to find yourself in burnout. And I know because I've been there myself.
Yep.
And I think that especially marketing, that can get a bit overwhelming, especially with everything else, like your books and you having to make sure that you're, running the operation and employees and payroll. And I'm already getting stressed out just talking about it.
Yeah, and it's not like I'm not there. I also struggle with that. I'm also there. It takes time. But as long as you're focusing on trying to make that better, that's great. A lot of people just refuse to allow themselves to let go of things. Um, when you're starting out, you may not be able to. You may not be able to right off the bat hire a bookkeeper, hire a salesperson, hire an operations manager, but at least know which hats you're going to keep and which hats you're going to pass off to somebody else and set a goal. Yeah.
100%. Do you help your clients with that, to kind of tell them, what they should help to make their business better? Like, because obviously you're into marketing. So do you kind of help them figure out what hats they should keep?
We work, we will be candid and upfront about everything always, right? If we see something that's a glaring, like, hey man, we're getting you a bunch of leads and they're not closing, and I just listened to one of the calls, you need to find a salesperson. Right? Like,
No,
you're
no,
a great business owner, but you're not a great salesperson. And I say that out of love. Like, we will always say stuff like that. But as far as helping people like grow their business beyond just marketing, at the moment, Tortuga isn't trying to be a consultant yet. Maybe in the future. We work with a number of different people that do that for the trades. And so if we identify a need for something like that, like a coach or a mentor or something like that, we can connect them with people. But at the moment, Tortuga is primarily trying to stay in its zone, so to speak, right? And just do the marketing piece right now.
no, absolutely. I always ask that because I like to consider myself a very well connected person.
Hmm.
Excuse me, there's my voice.
You definitely are.
So thank you. So if I understand, like, I own a cleaning business, but I've had clients ask me very like random questions if I know somebody, like for example, for the trees, and I'm like, I absolutely do, and I always refer your company. Do I know somebody to make a to build a fence? And I'm like, actually, I do. So it seems like you're also in that realm where you're very well connected. You're going to help your clients get where they need to be, but you're going to also be like, hey, you need this. Here's somebody who can help you, and that's what
Absolutely.
I'm looking for.
Yep.
I love that.
100%.
So being well connected is great. That's where I do a lot of networking. Just I also like to talk a lot, which is why I have a podcast. Talking is my thing. All right, just looking over my notes real quick. Oh, I always like to ask this question, and the responses have been very interesting. What is your number one networking tip?
Oh, that's a good one. I didn't have a pre like thought about answer, so it's going to be very candid. I don't know if you
Okay.
can relate to this, but when you're out networking and you're like doing the whole meet and greet thing at the beginning, do you ever struggle with like you start a conversation with someone and you're having a conversation and like as a conversation, it's great, but you're there to work. You're there to network and to meet people and to make connections that are meaningful and valuable. Did you ever find yourself getting stuck in a conversation?
100%. And I think I might have mentioned this on one of my other podcasts. My networking tip is I always go with a partner, and we have a predetermined signal.
Oh,
And
I
so if I
love
ever
that.
get
I didn't
stuck
hear
in a
this one.
situation, yeah. So Wendy Zaccanini from Zucchini Inc. She and I, like, if I go to a place, she'll know the look, and I'll be like, "Come pull me out," and she'll just come up and she'll be like, "Hey, have you met?" And she'll pull me away. So I always
Wow.
say, do it in pairs if you can.
Genius. So that's a really good solution. Same problem, right? Because when I first started going to networking events, that was a huge issue. Like I would be so disappointed at the end of the night. I'm like, man, I only talked to like five people, and those great people, right? I enjoyed it, but like, man, I only talked to five people. And so my tip, if I have the ability to bring someone, I'll bring someone because I love that. But for me, it was always to have a really quick intro and a really quick outro, like predetermined. And so my outro was usually not as interruptive because it was really quick. Like, so like who can I connect with you to that's going to be really helpful? And like who can I connect you to is going to help solve whatever problems you've got going on right now. Like, well, I'm looking for I'm like, follow me. I'm going to go bring you to this guy. And then I would basically bring them to the person and then I'd disconnect and I'd go to the next person. So that's my 2 cents. I like yours too, though. I like yours a lot.
No, that's great. So I do that too sometimes whenever I'm like alone. I'll be like, "Who here do you know?" And I'll ask them, and then I'll ask them to introduce me to somebody that they already know. And if they say, "Oh, I've never met anyone," I'll be like, "Oh, well, have I know so and so. Like, let's walk over there and meet them." So
Hmm.
that's definitely a good networking tip. I love that.
Yeah, yeah. Networking's great. Love it. I miss it. Haven't had time to go out in a bit, but It's a lot of fun.
You're killing it. So, and you're also still learning how to balance. So give yourself grace
Thank you. I appreciate
because that's going to take a minute. Yeah.
it.
No, absolutely. Because like I'm with you. It took me a while to figure it out. It is what it is. Sorry, my voice is all kind of weird today. Sounds like I've been screaming all night and I haven't. I didn't go to any concerts, I promise, guys. I didn't ask you this because I didn't, I just skipped over it. And I want to ask you, like, who is your biggest inspiration in entrepreneur? Like, whether it's a famous person, non famous person, your neighbor, a mentor.
um, I would say I have different mentors and inspirations for different reasons. Um, I as a human being, like my mom is my biggest inspiration. She's not she's not really a business owner. She works for herself, but not as a business owner. Her goal is not to grow her business or do anything like that. She's very comes from a very different background. Um, my mom is my greatest inspiration in life. In business, I have different people who I look up to for different reasons, of course. But yeah, I would say my mom. Hi,
I
mom.
love hearing that. Hi, mom, if you're listening. She's like, yes, I'm
Yeah.
listening. I promise.
Yep.
Supporting her son. You know, that's what I love about it. I have an adult son, and I'm trying to transition from being a mother to supporting him. And nobody tells you how hard it is to go from I get to tell you what to do because I feel like I'm teaching you how to make good decisions to now I have to trust you to make good decisions.
Oh man, in your I don't know anything about it. Just from hearing though, you sounds like you're in the stage where they also don't think you know anything. At least
A
I don't
thousand
know if
percent.
yours is like that, but just in general,
Oh, yeah.
teenagers go through that time period where they like she doesn't know, like, and then they get older and then they realize they were wrong.
Yeah,
That's how
listen,
it
fingers
happened for
crossed
me.
he figures that out soon because I love my son, but I just feel like, it's really hard to support when you're like, oh, I don't think that's going to end up good for you. But at the same time, it's not my consequence.
Hmm.
So I
Hmm.
don't know. I'm seeing a therapist. I'm just going to be honest because
Oh,
I don't know how to process all that. So, what advice was most impactful, and what advice would you give someone who's wanting to start a business?
oof, this one I'm conflicted on, but I'm gonna go with my gut and say that most of the time, hmm, yeah, I think my blanket advice is going to be to just do it. Just go ahead and do it. And it's going to be terrible advice for some people, but overall, on average, I think this is going to have the greatest like success percentage as a piece of advice is just do it. Because my justification for it is if it's a terrible business idea, just go ahead and start and fail so you can go ahead and learn. Failure is not the end of the world. And if it's a good idea, I know so many people that just overthink until it's too late. So just start. You're either going to fail and learn or you're going to succeed.
Absolutely. One of my biggest
Just do it.
motivation quotes is do it stupid first of all, but also failure is the door to success because without it, how do you know how to correct yourself or move forward?
Yep. Yep. Agreed.
And I feel like that as an entrepreneur, we and problem solvers as well. We're like, oh, okay, I've got 3 fixes for that. I'm going to try the first one. If it doesn't work, I've got 2 more. So just jump in and figure it out as you go. Honestly.
Yeah, exactly. I've heard a quote recently that said every successful person is just someone who didn't quit, like who did it one more time, something like that. Like the other person failed, but the only difference between the two of you is that you just did it again one more time, and that one more time was it. So,
No, I'm agreed. I was listening to a different podcast and Mod Sun was on it and they were talking about how every great artist reinvents themselves every 10 years and how I think it was Bob Dylan he had mentioned, everyone said he couldn't do this. Well, he went and he did it. Then he was successful and then they were saying he couldn't do I think it was like country music, rock music, different types and every single time they said he couldn't do it, but then they ended up loving him for it. So I definitely think reinventing yourself and making sure that you're still progressing forward and not letting people tell you that you can't be successful is a very big one too.
oh yeah, agree.
Like I love it. So Well, I was going to shout out your businesses, but I'm going to let you do that. Tell everybody where they can find your businesses, all three of them.
Oh, I appreciate you. Honestly, I think the best way to connect is just to visit us on our websites. We have social media accounts for all of them. You can interact with us there too. But the most tried and true method, so you get to the right person you want to talk to, is to just go to our website. If you're in need of any, residential, commercial painting, it's Ortega Painters NC.com. If you're in need of any tree services, lots cleared, any type of clearing thing, or right, we're in the middle of a hurricane and our crew is out doing emergency storm removal stuff, trees on cars, trees on houses, etc. To ortegatreeandland.com. And then lastly, if I'm sure a lot of your audience is also going to be business owners, from around here. So if you guys need any support in any way, with marketing or anything like that, feel free to check out tortuga-marketing.com. And then my personal socials, are pretty easy to get to too. It's just Luis Suarez, everywhere. And I am happy to be a resource in any way. If you just want someone to vent to, if you just want someone to talk to, if you've ran into a problem, like I said, it's important to ask for help. No one's going to judge you. And everyone posts their best on social media, but it's not the reality, right? We're all struggling too. So when you feel like you can't figure things out, just call someone, ask someone for help. We've all been there too. So hopefully I can be that person to someone else and give back, because I've had those people along the way.
And that's great. And social media is just a highlight reel of your
Mm-hmm.
life. That's how I look at it. So I'm like, okay, well, this is what they want us to know that's going great in their life. No one's going to post their, well, some people do, but their troubles and
Most
stuff.
people
So
don't,
I
though.
agree.
Yeah, you're right.
Right, because you just want people to know about the good things in your life. But I'm really glad that you mentioned that too, because reaching out to other entrepreneurs, even if they're not in the same category of work as you, is really refreshing, because sometimes we feel like we're on an island by ourselves and nobody understands our problems and they don't understand what we're going through. And, the list goes on. But
Correct.
that's why I also do this podcast, because I want to show, hey, someone else has gone through it. They've, they don't have the
You're
best
not
life, and
alone.
their highlight reel is great. Right.
Mm-hmm.
But you're not alone, and just reach out for help. And I love that.
Huge shout out to you. I think you've done an amazing job putting this together. The execution has been flawless.
Thank you.
Your interview questions have been really thought provoking, and all the other episodes are really entertaining. So I'm grateful for what you're doing. I'm glad you're doing this. I think we're all getting value from it, and I think this is awesome. This is great.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate the support, because this is something I wanted to try to kind of highlight other entrepreneurs, but then it kind of became more therapeutic to me, because now
Oh,
I
I'm
don't feel
sure.
like I'm
Yeah,
silenced. I'm like,
yeah.
and now I'm even more well connected, so I'm be able to help other guests with what they are going through too. So it makes me feel really good about that. So thank you.
I love that. I love that. Thank you.
Well, do you have any last words of wisdom for our guests?
No, I don't think so. I think I got everything. I think I got everything out there. We're all here to support each other. So just reach out.
Perfect. All right. Well, thank you guys for listening to another episode of Down Home Dirt, and we look forward to sharing another story with you next week.